Good evening to all the parents and guardians of East Providence High School students, and welcome to this Meet the Principals night here on Zoom. Much different than I had thought in the past, or that any of us had imagined. Just for a little help with everybody, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Ms. Furtado and Mr. Butler are here to answer questions and to help clarify things as we move along through the process. And I'm hoping just to talk a little bit and hopefully have you get a sense of who I am and where I came from and what I'm about, and then move into some details about the school, my first impressions after our first week of high school this year, and then a couple reminders to help us help your students get the best out of this year. So I guess a little bit about myself. My name is Toby Gibbons, and I was born in Maine. But I grew up in Massachusetts, and I attended Pittsfield High School. If you think about Massachusetts, it's literally 5 minutes from the New York border in the northern Berkshires. I went to high school there, and then I had the opportunity to attend a postgraduate year. My SATs weren't too good coming out of school because I was working and paying for heat in the house. So I didn't really take them too seriously. So that extra year was a really wonderful gap year. After I finished that, I ended up realizing that I wanted to be in education. I wanted to go back into private schools, and I wanted to teach, and I wanted to coach. That was super important to me. I spent 12 years in private boarding schools in Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, where I actually met my wife, who is a South Kingstown resident. She was born and raised here. She was an all-state track and soccer player for all 4 years in high school. But when we were living in New Hampshire, expecting our fourth, she kind of looked at me and said, I just want to move home. So as a math teacher, an athletic director at the time, I said, let's go. So we moved back to South Kingstown, where I ended up getting a job. Being that I was from Massachusetts, my original degree, I had my teaching certificate in math. So the first job I found was at BMC Durfee High School, which was a wonderful experience. I then got a job at Nathan Bishop Middle School in Providence, until my fortunes found me down at South Kingstown, which is the town I was living in. A lot of people think it was crazy that I wanted to teach in the town that I grew up in, that I was living in at the time. But that's not. My background in private schools was the whole life is all encompassing. And that's one of the things that really, it drew me and really excited me about East Providence. The more I got to know it, a lot of the teachers are working right in the town. They live in the town. They went to the high school. They grew up there. They had their roots there. And that's something that I've always enjoyed in education. That feels a lot like private school to me. And after my 6 years of coaching varsity sports and teaching mathematics there and getting my master's degree at Providence College, I then was hired at Narragansett High School as the assistant principal. A lot of people think of Narragansett and they think little old Narragansett and think $1 million beach houses. But that's not necessarily the case if you look at the demographics of the town. And what was really interesting for me was that my principal actually found out in my second year that he needed a kidney transplant. So with that, he missed the beginning of my second year, which enabled my progression as a leader to really step forward. I couldn't sit in the back anymore. I had to get out front. And then when he got the call to get his kidney transplant, he got the call on a Thursday in December and was in Colorado for the transplant on Monday. So that was in December, which that is budget season, hiring season, and doing scheduling for the following year. So those experiences as an assistant principal were really critical to my feeling I was ready for the next step, which is what I am. And I'm super excited to be here. In terms of the reopening plan, I have to give unbelievable amounts of kudos to the team at East Providence in the department in terms of coming up with the plan, thinking about a lot of different situations that make the school what the school is. If we all look back to education back in March, we were all forced into a virtual education world. And the analogy I like to use is we were all flying and building the plane while we're flying. Well, we had the summer to sit that thing down and to really look at what we can produce and what we can do and what we can do better. And I've been extremely impressed with the thought and the caring, especially at East Providence High School, in terms of how students are asked to move around the building, the different details that we've got happening in the school. One of the things that happened today when it got cold with the windows being open to help circulation is it was cold in the building. So one of the things I would ask you once again to have your students think about is to bring an extra sweatshirt from time to time. Some of the old buildings quirks and nuances are actually a benefit in terms of helping with safety, but it can get chilly from time to time, especially in the morning. So maybe throw an extra sweatshirt in the backpack to help them get through the day. In terms of that, some of the requirements that that were put into place for all of us is that, and I have to say it's been unbelievably impressive with the students, is the fact that we are all mandated to wear a mask whenever on school grounds. Um, I can't say how impressed I am with the student body. Um, Anxiety comes into educators when we think about asking 14 through 19-year-olds to do something like wear that when it's uncomfortable. And yet we've had very little pushback from the students. Even when they're outside getting ready to cross at the end of the school day, they are so happy to be there. And that buy-in from them for our in-person learners is going to be critical in our ability to stay open. The one-way hallways, the kids have done a great job learning the different patterns. I mean, the ninth graders are always confused, just like me. I feel like a ninth grader a lot of days because trying to find my way around the building, I feel like Mr. Magoo, where I'm just kind of stumbling around and asking for help. But I found that the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders have really done a wonderful job in terms of understanding what they have to do, being thankful that they're in the building with the teachers who really care about them, and adhering to what we need to do to keep each other safe. Unbelievably impressed with the student body so far. Unbelievably. I can't say that enough. One of the things that we're going to ask help for, and just in terms of transparency, when I was sitting with a lot of the leadership group today, I said, we have been sending a lot of information to the parents, and that's very good. At the same exact time, we could get to a point where it's overload and you start zoning us out. So I ask that you give us another week or two if we send the daily reminders, and we're going to start cutting that back a little bit. We're going to cut it maybe just to a Sunday night so that every student will know which week it is in terms of first period class and how the rotation of Wednesday is going to go. But I really appreciate the fact that it's evident that you as parents haven't shut us off yet. And one of the things is the wellness checks. It is something that is new. It's a brand new routine, and it can be done on Skyward. We ask the students when they come in the building to do it. They're doing the best they can. We're going to keep reminding them, and we expect that teenagers are going to need reminders. We didn't get into high school education if we didn't think that was important. So we're asking once again for your help there. Okay, just continue to remind them in the morning, or have them set an alarm on their phones. That's what I have to do. I set a timer every morning at 6:15 because a couple days I drive into school and then I remember. And that's not a problem. We're just going to try to make sure that we stay compliant in that aspect. Skyward, if one of the things is a lot of requests have come in because there might be some problems with Skyward with your students or even your account. My ask and our ask is that you call the high school. Okay, you can call us for anything you want, but you can call at 435 7806 and ask for guidance. They can reset it for you because a lot of communication heads out through Skyward, and Skyward is the platform for that wellness check. It's pretty important. Other aspect that that I just want to remind us all of is our in-person learners. We had the opportunity to have 9th and 11th graders in today and tomorrow. And that's going to be the case for every single week moving forward. Every Monday and Tuesday is going to be our in-person 9th and 11th graders. Okay, they will be in person every day on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is a virtual day for everybody. And then the 10th and 12th will come in every single Thursday and Friday. All right. So I know that some of that was confusing because last week we wanted to dip our toe in. We wanted to just get the 9th graders in and get them working around the building with just themselves, and then the 11s. So we spread it out a little more. It's quite all right if you misunderstood it or misread it. We're all being really understanding at this time because we know that it's new and we're ready to work with it. On the other aspect, if your child is a distance learner and they show up to school, we're going to ask you to come get them. One of the reasons why we had to have people choose that, whether they're in person or distance, was because of the constraints of our plan and trying to stay in compliant with the CDC and the state for guidelines for safety. If you want to have your child switch from remote to in person, please call the main office and ask. What we're doing is we have a wait list assigned, and when we can look through and safely bring extra students into the building, then we are doing that. And it's on a first come, first serve, going right down the wait list. Okay, so for the most part, we've been able to accommodate those, but we really have to be careful in terms of making sure that we don't overload a class that can't handle safely those number of students. Okay. One of the things that has switched that brought to my attention today is student attendance. Last fall, the students just had to check in for first period if they were going to school virtually. Well, that's changed this year. Virtual school is just like as whether they were here or in class, they have to be in checking in daily, every period to every single class. So today, every single virtual learner should have checked into their first period, then their advisory, then their second period, and then their third period classes. Teachers are taking attendance on every single period, which that's changed from last year. Last year, they checked in for the first period and that was it. Okay, so once again, we've given professional development to our teachers and helping them really make sure that we're not falling behind in terms of creating gaps in students' knowledge. So what we're having is it's a regular class day. Okay. Ms. Furtado or Mr. Butler, have there been any questions in the chat at this point? Nope. All right.
Nothing at this point.
At this point. Okay. Once again, I know this is really strange. I wish that I was standing in front of you in the auditorium. That's what I wish. This is definitely not me, and it's kind of weird looking at myself talk to you all like this. But I just have a couple more points, a couple more things to talk about. I know it's a Monday night and it's 7:15, and I said it would be 10 to 15 minutes. It looks like we're at 15 now, so I apologize, but there's just a few more things. One of the things that the state put out there for all schools was to fill out an application to get free breakfast and lunch for all students, regardless of their social economic status or their financial background. That we were approved for and are offering that to every high school student, both in person and virtual, through December 31st, 2020. So that's the end of this year. For in-school students, they can pick it up on their way to advisory or in second period. I think that's right, Mr. Butler. And then they pick up, that's for breakfast. And at lunch, they pick it up as they're walking out the door. Once again, we have kiosks set up around the exits. Students can walk right by, grab one, and walk right out. For any virtual learner, we have it set up as like a one-stop shop between 9 and 10 o'clock in the student parking lot at the high school. It's where the bus gets dropped off. It's on I think it's the south part of the building. It's the one closest to, what's that school right there?
Closest to PCD.
Yep, right next to PCD. Okay, so it's that entrance of the school. You can head in and pick up breakfast and lunch at one time. No need to come back twice. Anytime between 9 and 10 o'clock on school days. Okay. What also is important for us as a school is if you are taking advantage of free or reduced lunch during the regular year, we still need you to fill out that paperwork. That's an annual form that you have to fill out. It can be done online. And so we ask that if that was something that you've taken advantage of in the past, that you take the time to fill out that paperwork and send it in. And speaking of paperwork, we have emergency forms that were sent out in the dean's letters early this year in a folder to parents. We really need your help in getting those forms returned. We don't have many of them back yet, but those are critical in case something ever happens to any child or we need to get in touch with you quickly or in terms of any update from the school at any time. Okay. Once again, I really want to thank you all for being here tonight. In terms of transparency, I know we're filling you with a lot of information. It's the beginning of the year, and we hope to curb it back or just make it a little more bullet pointish so that you can get the nitty gritty of it quicker. Okay. Last but not least, we're really worried, and we've done a lot of time thinking, spent a lot of time thinking about the social emotional health of all of our students and staff. We have school social workers that are ready and willing to do anything to help you, and your students, whether it's a virtual meeting, whether it's an email, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a Zoom chat, whether it's a Google Meet. They're here and ready, and their services are available to all of our students at any time. So please just reach out. At this moment, I really just want to say how happy and proud I am to be a townie. I know it's been a short time, but I'm already feeling thankful and grateful for the community for welcoming me, especially in the high school. I look forward to seeing people at dances, hopefully when we can get those going again, at sporting events, hopefully at plays, at musicals. And I hope that we continue to do the wonderful work, and the kids just keep doing an amazing job in terms of being compliant with the different regulations and rules that we have to do in order to stay open. Once again, thank you for your time. I truly appreciate it. And I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to call the high school at any time with questions that we can help. And that's 435-7806. Thank you very much.